and he saw an apple fall from this tree, which got him thinking about the principles of gravity. Welcome to Woolsthorpe Manor. Welcome, Sir Isaac Newton. Well, it just says Isaac Newton at Woolsthorpe Manor. The world changed here. Okay, this is Sir Isaac Newton's hometown. I guess it was his place of birth also. Woolsthorpe Manor. National Trust. That's what we joined, except it's called the Royal Oak Foundation for the U.S. Okay, let's go look at the map. Okay, ticket office, toilet, sun, just get Newton's barn. Okay, Manor House is 6. The apple tree, okay, the apple tree is by the house. So that's the Manor House and the apple tree. The apple tree where it all started. We didn't have gravity before that. Okay, there's the Manor House. This must be the apple tree. Look how much the stairs have worn down, or the steps. Okay, he was born in 1643. So that would have been, I guess, the mid 1600s when he lived here. I've seen a lot of houses like this. I guess maybe it's because they had a basement. Too bad Heather knows why they were built like this. Let me know. We'll walk through the orchard first. Not sure what was planted there. I guess another apple tree. So he was sitting out here somewhere and he saw an apple fall from this tree, which got him thinking about the principles of gravity.
Ice cream.
This is the original tree. It was blown down, but stayed rooted and kept growing. That's the blown down portion there. That is pretty wild. That is the apple tree from Sir Isaac Newton's. It didn't fall on his head, that's what I heard. But he did see it fall, which got him thinking about gravity. I guess that's supposed to be him. Sitting there looking at the tree.
We're not sure about, I think it may have been the man that built the stairs. You can go straight through there, so there's a hall and there's the kitchen, and then you can...
Life in the 17th century.
There's one room we can't let you in because the floor's not solid. What uses...
Oh, look at that.
Well, there's been a house on this side, it was called Mortimer's Manor. Now when...
I guess this is where they ate. Okay, no, I guess this is where they cooked and maybe ate there.
Want to sign the book?
Yeah.
Did his experiments with the prisms. At the time, this partition would not have been here.
So this is the actual room that he did.
Yeah, this was the actual room where he did the work, where he proved that the colours are in the white light and not in the prism. The thinking used to be that the colours were in the glass.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is where he did that work. He himself had this put up, this partition, at a later date, but we don't know what the purpose of the little room was.
Oh,
It
okay.
may have been to store books.
Hmm.
We don't really know. We don't really know. His biographers that he had when he was a student in Grantham, he used to draw on his bedroom walls. But that wasn't unusual because in those days paper was so expensive.
Yeah.
So you would draw on the wall, and in any case, every 6 months, these walls would have been re-lime washed for hygiene reasons.
Oh, okay.
So you notice one or two things where we've covered over.
Yeah.
That would have been done, those items would have been done when the lime wash was still damp. And hence when it was re-lime washed, they stayed there. That in particular, we think it's a soldier. I can get the torch on, here we are. It's possibly, it would be a roundhead or a cavalier. Say he was born 1642, which was the start of the outbreak of the English Civil War. There would have been a lot of troops moving around here, and because it was a farm, the troops would turn up and say, look, we're soldiers, we're going to protect you. By the way, you're going to feed us. You know, so we're not saying he drew it. He probably didn't, but somebody drew it, you know.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we've got examples of his writing. Obviously it's not the original, but the type of things. He kept very details of things that he spent money on and so on, you know.
Okay.
You know, so we've got all those. Yeah.
Is that a safe?
No, it's what's called a book press, which is really just a book cupboard. And the beauty of it is that where it is, there's a flue from the fire goes along the back of it, so it would have been a warm cupboard. So if somebody had written something in ink, say, they made their own ink out of soot, and somebody had written something in ink, they could put it in the cupboard to dry it.
Oh.
And they may have put one or two expensive books in there to dry out. And also at a time when men wore wigs, they could have put the wig in there to dry it.
This must have been, I guess, his parents' bedroom?
Yeah. I like that ice cream here.
Okay. Yeah, this room looks more fancy, so I guess this was the master.
Well, even his room was pretty big.
Yeah, well, I mean, the windows and the
Yeah,
fireplace.
Yeah.
What does that say?
Oh, he's just talking about the plaque above the...
Oh, that's what I was wondering. Commemorating the birth of Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton, son of Isaac Newton, Lord of the Manor of Woolsthorpe, was born in this room. In this room? I guess so. December 25th, 1642. Nature and nature's laws lay hid in night. God said, "Let Newton be," and all was light. Okay, he was born in this room. Oh, I guess that's his. Well, that's probably not his cradle, but a cradle. Oh, that's the book he wrote, where he kind of put all his thoughts together. I wonder if Michael's read that book.
That was the one
One of the most important works in the history of science, published in 1687.
Someone had to publish it to make sure that he didn't lose his work.
Well, this book contains the first written reference to that apple tree.
And to the gift of his famous visitors when he was Master of the Royal Mint. And
Okay, so this is right after he was knighted.
yes, in 1703, I believe, by Queen Anne.
Okay, that must be the town of Woolsthorpe over there. But I don't. They had 500 acres, and they had a lot of sheep. Which she said, and I've heard from other people, that if you had a lot of sheep, you were doing good. Let's see. Isaac Newton was fascinated by sundials. When he was 9, he carved one on the wall of the manor house. It is now in Woolsthorpe Church.
He went to school in a place called Grantham, which is about 7 or 8 miles away.
Okay.
He went to the King's School, which is still actually a school there. And he boarded with a man called Mr. Clark, who was the local apothecary. And there he would have seen potions and lotions being mixed up.
Okay.
When he was 19, he went to Trinity College, Cambridge. Now, that was against his mother's wishes. She wanted him to stay here and be a farmer. But as you will see from the film, he couldn't cope with it. He couldn't deal with it. You know, so he was at Trinity College, Cambridge for 35 years.
So he was a student there, and then
he was a student. He went in 1661. He went there when he was 19. Now his mother was reluctant to pay for this, and he went as a servant to other students. But after a few years, they realised his abilities, and within a few years, he had become the second Lucasian Professor of Mathematics. Which was a post later held by Sir Stephen Hawking.
wow.
Yeah, who has been here. We've had lots of famous people. So you're treading in famous footsteps. He was at Cambridge until the 1690s. He got bored with academic life. He was very much a recluse, but he'd had a bit of a taste of London life. And he got a job as warden of the Royal Mint, which at the time was in the Tower of London. Okay. So he decamped to London, A few years later, he became Master of the Royal Mint at a time when the coinage in this country was in a terrible state. It was being copied, it was being clipped, people were clipping the edges off the coins, people were taking the coins abroad and melting them down and getting more for the value of the metal. So you couldn't trust the coinage.
Okay.
And this was causing a lot of discontent among people that lived here because they didn't feel stable. It was difficult to trade.
All right, keep
But
moving
Isaac
on.
Newton sorted all that out. He got the coinage redesigned so it was difficult to copy. He had mints set up in different parts of the country. They called all the old coinage in and reissued new coinage. And then he was knighted by Queen Anne in 1702, so he became a Sir.
Yep.
And then he was president of the Royal Society from 1703 until he died in 1727.
Okay.
But he never really lived here after. He came back here in 1787. His mother got smallpox. So he came back for a few months to look after her. But after that, he didn't live here. And when he died, the estate went to a distant relative who sadly was a gambler and gambled it all away.
Oh.
And 3 years later, it was sold to pay off the gambling debts. But a local landowner bought it called Edmund Turner. And Turner's installed tenant farmers here. It was a big farm. It was 500 acres, several hundred sheep. It was a wealthy concern. And we had tenant farmers here for 265 years.
Wow.
Same family, Woollerton,
Wow.
which is quite appropriate, being the wool and the sheep, and
Yeah.
you know,
I guess that's where the town got its name.
probably, yeah, wool. I mean, there were several hundred sheep here, and in those days, you see, clothing was made of wool or of linen, and also the law was that when a person died, they had to be wrapped in white wool, and in fact, this was checked. Before a coffin was taken into the church, the coffin would be opened to check that the body was correctly attired.
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. So basically, if you had sheep, you were worth a lot of money.
Okay.
And Isaac's mother Hannah, she was worth a lot of money. She had about £700 a year income. Thank you very much. Thank you. You can look round the rest of the house if you want to, or upstairs.